This is Empire Sports Alliance, Unfiltered. No fluff, no filters, just the real side of sports. We're talking athletes, coaches, agents, doctors, executives, the people behind the scenes who actually move the needle. From building careers to surviving the grind to winning off the field. This is where real conversations collide.
Welcome to another episode of Empire Sports Alliance Unfiltered. I'm Ronnie. I'm the wealth guy. I got Michael Byrd Jr. today as a guest, professional wide receiver. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ronnie. I appreciate what you're doing with your podcast. And
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. In terms of, I feel like we got a lot of feedback in terms of athletes really kind of listening in, obviously not just coming from me in terms of what my experience is working with athletes, but, individuals like yourself in terms of how you got started, how the entire journey kind of looked. And that's where I normally kind of start. I would kind of hand it over to you at this point and kind of have you tell me when was the first time you touched a football? What's Michael Byrd Jr.'s journey look like?
I was in kindergarten, a little before kindergarten, around 4 years old. I was a huge Panthers fan, a huge Steve Smith fan. So they went to the Super Bowl in 2003, 2004 season.
Well, that was the first. Stewart was their back at that point, right? Was that right?
No, it would have been, I think, Deshaun Foster. Deshaun Foster was their back, yeah. And so Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, they came a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, it was '03. No, it would have been 2002, 2003 season. I'm pretty sure. Somewhere around there. But anyway, that was
Sure.
when I was really beginning my football journey. They were in the Super Bowl, and I was kind of like every kid's dream is like, oh, you want to play in the Super Bowl, you want to get to the NFL. But the first time I really picked up a football was on the playground, early kindergarten, 4 or 5 years old, and I just took off from there. I was always around the game. My first head coach was Brinson Buckner. He
Okay.
played with the Carolina Panthers. He was actually on that Super Bowl team.
Yes.
So that was kind of cool for me to have like a personal connection with the Panthers. And so from there on, I kind of just took off into middle school, played corner, played receiver. They even had me at nose tackle for one game just for my speed to split past the centers.
Really? You played nose tackle?
Yeah, split past both gaps of the center. My coach just said, go, you're fast, you're tiny, they can't block you, just slip through the gap. So that's just one of those crazy football stories. Like, everybody's got one, but yeah, that's one of my craziest position I've played. But yeah, middle school played really everything, kickoff unit, punt return, everything. And then as I got into high school, started specializing more on just receiver and corner. I still did kick and punt return, but
So
really
you played both sides of the ball then? Sorry. In terms of in high school, corner as well as receiver? Okay.
played both sides of the ball. Gravitated more to receiver. Like I said, Steve Smith was my favorite player, so I just loved the art of running routes and making people miss and running past people. I would say I'm more gifted as a corner, which I'll kind of get into my college journey.
Yeah.
But I love receiver more just because it's more of an artsy craft, meaning you have more freedom within the receiver position to be more athletic. Corner is more of a technical position. You really have to be technique
You're more
hungry. You don't
reactive,
have to-
right? And proactive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just gravitated to receiver more. And then as I got in high school, I had some interest from some schools, Old Dominion, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Nobody really pulled the offer. They were all interested, but nobody really solidly offered. So I decided to go to prep school, did a year in prep school. So that's kind of like JUCO, but it doesn't go against your eligibility.
Right.
So I
Real
maintained
quick,
all my.
going back, so Kentucky was showing interest initially?
Yep.
And
Kentucky, Vanderbilt.
Oh, okay. So DC school's nice.
Yeah,
So in
North
terms of
Carolina, North Carolina too.
was it more receiver? Or was it more like on the cornerback position? That
It was more. It was slot, but I would say Liberty. Why am I drawing the blank? Liberty, UNC Charlotte, Lenore Ryan. Those schools wanted me at corner, and then the bigger schools wanted me at receiver just because my film looked nicer. At receiver, I was doing some things with the ball in my hand, and so they kind of liked that aspect. And I am only 5'8", so I think that kind of factored into the bigger schools not really wanting me as a true corner on the outside. So
from a receiver position, then you always played the slot. Was that your main
slot,
position?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my main position. I did get put on the outside in high school sometimes, but all the guys that I talked to, all the coaches and recruiters I talked to in college, they were like, "Yeah, you're strictly slot guy. Like you're not over 5'10", 5'11", we're not going to put you
Yeah.
out there. So, that's one of those things, like, it's a hard conversation to have because we as athletes, we feel like we can do anything we put our mind to, but then when you have a coach telling you like, yeah, I don't think you can do that, hard conversations. But yeah, that's the reality of recruiting. So, yeah.
Right on. So in terms of, could you just talk, and I'm going to let you continue, but in terms of the importance from coming out of high school, getting some of these offers, where do you see, especially in today's game, the importance of like putting film together for these young, folks in the audience?
You you really your film is your resume. I always tell
Yeah.
people, like, just like in the regular working world, when you get a job, you have a resume of what you accomplished, what you're capable of, your skills, your background knowledge, etc. When you hand that in to people, that's what they see you as. On your job applications, people who are hiring, that's what they see you as. So your film is the same way. When you email your film or you send it out to a coach, that's what they're getting from you. That's what they're seeing. What type of player are you? What are you capable of? How fast are you? How strong are you? How versatile are you? Can you play multiple positions? Like, that's your resume being sent to those guys. And so I always tell kids, younger guys, put your best plays at the very beginning of your film. If you have 5 clips that are just extraordinary, put them at the very beginning, because these college coaches and scouting departments, they don't have all day to watch film. They might watch your film for 30 seconds and then move on if it's not really,
So it got to be quick. It got
catching.
to pop, right?
Yes. Yeah, if it's not catching their eye, they're gonna cut it off and move to the next kid because they get hundreds of emails a day.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so again, Kentucky called, but then again, you moved on. You did some more educational piece. Right. Let's continue there.
Yep, I went to prep school because nobody really had offered, and I was trying to get full scholarship offers. I didn't really want to walk on at the time. I felt like, for me, that would have been a hassle for me. So I was like, I'll try another year prep school, see if I can get an offer, squeeze an offer out of it. During that time, I was talking to the University of North Carolina specifically. It just didn't work out. Gunnar Brewer was the receivers coach over there. Larry Fedora was the head coach over there at the time. Didn't work out. They didn't pull it. So I was close to getting an offer, but just didn't. And then I found out didn't really have the grades to get in there because North Carolina is a good academic school. So at that point,
Well, I
I,
know
I
they're
had
trying
two
to
choices.
change that now, right? I mean, they
Huh?
hired a pretty big time coach at this point. So
Yeah, they did. It hasn't worked out too well, but we'll see how it goes. But
yeah.
yeah, did that. Found out didn't have the grades, and they kind of were like, "Hey, we're kind of just going to not stop recruiting you. We're just going to be finished with it. Best of luck in your recruitment." And so I had to look elsewhere. So I was going to walk on to University of Kentucky. 'Cause they had some interest in me out of high school, but then after prep school, they kind of just burnt out. I guess they had moved on and found another guy. That's the rough reality of it. So that was an option that failed. And so then I was in panic mode at that point, because those were the two, main schools that I really thought I was going to be at. So I just started emailing a bunch of schools. I had some D2 interest, but honestly, I felt like I was better than D2. Until I didn't really want to sell myself short by going to a school that I felt the talent level didn't really match mine. So I just sent my stuff out to a bunch of schools and heard back from the University of Arkansas, and they were like, "We like your film, but we'll let you walk on, not necessarily a scholarship." And that's what I was hearing from a couple different places. So just talked to my mom. I was like, I'm gonna just have to. I just got to walk on. That's, if I want to play high level college football, like, that's what I got to do. So that transitioned into my college period. Was going to be going into that year, was going to walk on. Had some health issues. Then I had to medically redshirt, so I did not compete that year when I was at Arkansas. Didn't compete at all.
What
Then they
year we
had a
talking,
coach.
Michael? Like that was what year was
Would
that?
have been 2017.
2017. Got it.
2017. Yep, 2017, 2018. So didn't compete at all. Had a medical issue going on. If you're familiar with colitis, kind of had that going on. The doctors didn't know what it was at the time because I was bleeding, so they had to make sure it was not cancer. They were ruling some things out. They just didn't know what was happening with me, and I was kind of I
Pretty
was kind of
terrible.
hesitant to I was kind of hesitant to go to the doctor. The
Yeah.
whole reason I went to the doctor is just because of a physical, and then when I didn't pass the physical, it's like, now I have to.
Tell
I
them.
have to. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So that kind of wiped out 2017. So that was my redshirt year, and then we had a coaching change. Brett Bielema left, and he went. I don't know where he went after that, but then we had Chad Morris that came in. That staff was not going to bring me in as a walk on, so transferred, went to TCU.
Any particular reason they didn't?
Coaches never give you a reason. It's
They
more of
don't.
it. No, I mean, what they told me, which I felt like was a lie. They
Yeah.
told me that, I wasn't healthy, which was a lie because I had been cleared by the doctors at that point, so I was
Yeah.
healthy. So they said that I wasn't healthy and that I was a little undersized, and they were going to, fill my position with somebody else. That was the reason, but I don't think that's a real reason. So
Okay.
I think it's just an excuse because I had sat out for a year and didn't compete for a year. So I think
Yeah.
that was the real reason why they kind of booted me. So
Okay.
I went to TCU, loved it there.
How did that come
They
about in terms of like, just again for the audience, it's just like when you transfer, how does that come out? All right, so if they're kicking you out, now what are you doing? You're reaching out to the other school
yeah,
or
you
you enter the portal and then they call you or how did it work?
into the portal. So that was
Yeah.
the first year. 2018 was the first year transfer portal kind of
Yeah.
came about. So got in there and I connected with it. I had always liked TCU from afar, but
Yeah.
we just never aligned. I reached out to them, and they in high school they would always. Somebody would tell me, "Hey, come to the camps. Come to the camps." It's like, I live in North Carolina. I'm not going halfway across the
Yeah.
country for a camp. So I just never did that, and it never went past that point. But after Arkansas, I was like, you know what? I put together a list of a few big schools that I wanted to go to. Virginia Tech, TCU was one, Vanderbilt was another one, and it was one other one I'm forgetting at the moment, but South Carolina. And so
Okay.
those were the schools that I sent stuff out to because I like Vandy because it was an academic school. I like South Carolina because they had, I don't know, I've just always kind of been drawn to them, kind of their facilities, and just being an SEC school that's close to home for me.
Yeah.
Then Virginia Tech's just high academic and a beautiful campus as well. And then TCU obviously is a nice campus, and Garrett Patterson, what he built there was a tremendous vibe. So
That was
sent
pretty
my
high
stuff out.
octane offense, right? I mean, that would have been fun to
Yeah,
play there. So yeah. Okay.
yeah, with Trayvon Boykin and and
Yeah.
and Devontae Turpin and some of those guys. So I sent my stuff everywhere. Didn't hear back from really anybody. Sent my stuff out to NC State too at that time, and Wake Forest, all the North Carolina schools. They had kind of ignored me too for whatever reason. But I heard back from one person, and that person was a GA at the time at TCU. His name is Fleming, RJ Fleming, and Coach RJ. He had DM'd me on Instagram, and he was like, "Hey," he was like, "I got your film." He was like, "Would you be interested in a visit?" And I was like, "Y'all are that interested?" He was like, "Yeah, it would probably be a preferred walk-on spot since you were, out medically last year and not active." He said, "But we definitely are interested in bringing you in the program. We think you have some talent." So set up a visit and got down there, and I loved it. I love Coach P. Coach P is honestly the best coach I've played from a X's and O's standpoint. Very smart guy. He knows
Yeah.
how to recruit. He knows what it takes to get guys better. A lot of coaches don't know how to get players better. They just recruit, and then when you come in, they expect you just to be good. But he actually teaches you what you need to get better at, and then walks you along the steps that actually it will take to get you to that point.
So
Um,
even from a head coaching perspective, you're saying great recruiter, right? It brings you in, understands the X's and O's, which I'm sure again there's vastly different levels in terms of from a coaching ranks, but then also works with you individually. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yep. And
Uh,
he's big on recruiting under recruited guys,
Yeah,
guys that weren't highly rated guys out of high school. So I mean, a prime example of that is Josh Dotson. He played with
yeah,
the Washington Redskins. He wasn't a highly
yeah.
recruited guy. He ended up walking on at TCU as well. So Coach P, he likes those type of guys, those guys that get overlooked. That's kind of his forte. Those are the type of players he likes to go get. So they found me, went on a visit. I loved it there. Beautiful campus. Texas is a beautiful part of the country. So I was there for 2 years. It was cool. I mean, made a lot of friends, learned a lot of football. Coach
Yep.
P has a crazy football mind. But at the end of the day, I left after 2 years just because I wasn't getting the playing time that I wanted. I played in one game while I was there, kind of garbage time at the end of a game, and I felt like I could do more than that. And so me and Coach
You
P, we kind of
were you only
we had
playing receiver, or you're
I was
playing
playing
both?
receiver and corner. I'm glad you brought
Oh,
that up.
okay.
I'm glad you brought that up. So halfway through my time at TCU, after about a year and a half, Coach P was like, "Hey, we saw your film in high school. We know you can play corner and receiver." And basically, him and the staff, they told me we think you're better as a corner. We think you have, the speed to play corner. You have a good change of direction. You're
Yeah,
technically sound. Like you
quickness.
backpedal smooth. Yeah.
Mhm.
So made that switch, and then COVID hit. That would have been March of 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were in spring ball, and I was fully transitioned in the corner. COVID hit, wiped out spring ball. And so I kind of talked with the coaches like, hey, what do y'all think playing time looks like? And they were like, honestly, like we needed to see you in spring ball to determine if we're going to really play you in the fall. And they were like, we don't have spring ball now, so we don't get that evaluation period. And so basically they were telling me like, we're not playing you basically straight to my face.
Lack of
And
film,
so
yeah. Lack of
yeah,
yeah.
without saying it. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, all right, fine. I will get in the transfer portal because I don't want to stay here another year and keep wasting eligibility and time.
Yes.
So we kind of mutually parted ways, no hard feelings. Left, went to Colorado. Colorado was shortened, abbreviated season, COVID season. We went to a bowl game that year, but I realized the situation was going to be the same as TCU, so I might as well go back to TCU because
Who
we
was your
had when I was
quarterback at
at
that point at Colorado?
we had Lytle, and then we had few others. It was a revolving door. We had Brendan Lewis, and then we had gosh, I'm forgetting his name. He transferred in from TCU. I'm not TCU, but Tennessee. God,
I think I
I'm
remember.
forgetting.
But
I'm forgetting his name right
yeah.
now. But we had
But
like a
either way,
three rotation.
there's a lot of change at the quarterback position too.
Yes, we had a rotating door, and so I got out of there because I realized, I was playing behind Dimitri Stanley,
Yeah.
Jalen Jackson, a few guys that were highly talented. Dimitri, he ended up getting in training camp, I think, with the Packers, and so another buddy of mine, Chris was tremendous receiver, but he was a freshman. Keith Miller too. Just a lot of talent at my position. Keith was a 4-star that came in, so just a lot of talent. It was loaded. Coach was like, yeah, you could be in the rotation, but I don't know how much time you're going to get. You're probably not going to get as much as you think. So I was like, okay, I'm in the same boat as TCU, and I like TCU better because Texas was just a better environment for me. So
Yeah.
went back to TCU for a year, got my degree, and then decided to just clean slate and head to Valparaiso. And then when I went to Valparaiso, while I was at Colorado, I was ineligible academically because of 4-4-4 rule. So that rule says you can't transfer to 4 Power 5 schools, which will now be Power 4 schools. You
Yeah.
can't transfer to more than 3 in a row, right? So if you go to 3 in a row, well, you can't go to 3 in a row, but if you jump to more than one Division I school, you have to go to a 2-year in between. So like if somebody goes from Georgia to USC,
Yeah.
they could do that from Georgia to USC, but if they wanted to go to a third D1 school,
Texas, let's say after that. They
they would need to go to a JUCO and then go. You can't go to 4-year
But
schools,
I mean,
3
at one
4-year
point,
schools.
time is running out. No, like from an eligibility perspective, like I mean,
Yeah.
this is not. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my argument because I fought it, and I said, for one, I was redshirted freshman year, so
Yes.
that shouldn't even count. And then two, it's like you said, like the clock is still running. I should be able to transfer without penalty, but NCAA, as we all know, they don't rule consistently on things. They're
I
very
would. I would.
inconsistent.
I would
Yeah,
tend to agree with you on that. Now, I just think it's
yeah,
interesting in terms of talking about the eligibility part of it, right? Because, obviously coaches love, I mean, if you watch, like in a college game, then all this stuff, you hear the coaches on there, they love the consistency, somebody coming in, waiting their time and this and that, which I understand from a coaching perspective, but from an individual player, just what you're describing,
it's
it's
hard.
not that easy because you only have that many years in terms of building more film if you have ambition to get to the next level,
Correct.
right? Be
Correct.
invited to the draft. So I think there's somewhat an in between, right? Yeah,
Correct.
not that
Correct.
easy.
So
I think.
exactly. That's what happened with me. And looking back on it, I was a little impatient. I think TCU probably would have gave me some more opportunities if I stuck
Sure.
around. But hindsight is always 2020, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
looking back is you can always make the right decision when you're looking back. But went to Valparaiso, which is Division I FCS small school. And then when I got there, found out I was ineligible just because I didn't get the COVID year because I was ineligible at Colorado. So it didn't give me a blanket COVID year like it did
Yeah.
for everybody else. So at that point, I was toast, kind of college career done. Left a sour taste in my mouth a little bit because I didn't get to accomplish what I set out to accomplish.
No, you wanted to get on the field. You wanted to generate,
Yeah,
yeah. I get
yeah.
that.
So that was sour taste in my mouth, but a part of it was on me because I was impatient, bouncing around a lot. A part of it was I was victim of circumstance. Like I said, my first year, red shirt medically, didn't get to play, wasn't doing well healthy wise, and then the 4-4 rule kicked in, then COVID kicked in. So it was a lot of things that I couldn't necessarily control. And then on top of that, I sat behind 13 guys in the NFL right now. Tay Barber, Darius Davis, I mean, Jalen Rager, Demetri Stanley, he's in the CFL now. Like, list, I could go on and on. It's a lot of guys that I played behind that are in the NFL now. So I just didn't get those opportunities because I played with a lot of talented guys. So left a sour taste in my mouth for sure. So ended up kind of just circling my thoughts, kind of what I wanted to do because I still wanted to play. And so crazy thing was when I was at TCU, this is why I always tell kids to practice hard. When I was at TCU, we had a couple first round picks, LJ Collier, Jeff Gladney, and then Jalen Rager, who were getting
Yep.
looked at as first round picks. And so scouts were at practice all the time. And to my benefit, I practiced really hard. And when we did 1-on-1s and 7-on-7 and team stuff, I gave full effort. And so I had a Packer scout come up to me one day at practice, and he was like, "What year are you?" And I told him, and then he was like, "You got good speed." And he was like, "You run routes well." He was like, "You definitely might be a guy I come back, and look at." And so I didn't really take nothing of it. I was like, "Okay, cool. Like if I get playing time, like
Yeah,
we'll have
yeah, yeah.
another,
Let's go there
yeah,
first,
we'll
right?
have a different conversation." Yeah, but
If you
I
like me
kind
at
of,
practice, just see me on the field when it
yeah,
actually matters, even more so. All right.
yeah, exactly. So
Uh,
that was a cool conversation. But then a guy with NFL Draft Diamonds, if you're familiar with their site, they do a lot of write ups on potential NFL scout prospects and things. And so he kind of approached me. He DM'd me one day and he was like, "Hey,
what was it called? NFL Draft Dominance?
yeah, NFL Draft Diamonds."
Diamonds, God.
And so they're a website that tracks NFL prospects, guys that have NFL talent and stuff, and they kind of highlight guys. And so
Yep.
he approached me, and he was like, I kind of was searching, guys out, and your name came up from, a scout or two, NFL scout or two. Of maybe a guy that's under the radar we should look at and talk to.
Yep.
So he did an interview with me, and so he talked to a Philadelphia Eagles scout about me, and that scout basically said in the article, that I need more opportunities. He came and saw me at practice and figured that I needed more chances based off of what I could do. And so it was cool to me to see, NFL people kind of stand
Showing
behind me a
interest?
little bit. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know I could play. I just wasn't getting those opportunities. And am I a perfect player? No, I have flaws in my games. We all do. But I know I have that potential.
So on that note, though, again, you have the potential, right? What would you tell young players today in terms of like staying physically and mentally prepared? What is the best approach? Because again, you mentioned also in terms of from a transferring, it can turn you sour a little bit, right? This is
Yeah,
not easy from a psychological perspective.
no.
What would you suggest?
I always, for what helped me most is I always went back and got my practice clips from practice and I saw the good that I did. Because the coaches are going to tell you all the bad that you do. They're going to always highlight that, oh, you need to catch the football better. You need to, run a better comeback route, or you need to have more balance when you go to make a move. They're always going to have some critique. But I always took the clips that I did well from practice and I recorded them. I got them on my phone and I looked at those every day and I told myself, okay, this is what I'm capable of. This is my potential. I've had one-handed catches at practice. I've had catches where, they're low balls and it didn't look like I could catch it and I caught it. Like I look at those, I record them and I look at those and like, okay, that's my potential. Because you will forget how talented you are when you sit on the bench for 2, 3, 4 years. You'll forget because
So you motivate yourself. All right, yeah, you're pointing out all the bad stuff. Then you're looking at your own practice, tape, and I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I did this bad, but I did this really well.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
okay.
every
Yeah.
bad thing I did, there's one or two things I'm doing well too. And but coaches, they have different minds. They don't see things the same way.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just constantly had to watch the film, remind myself, okay, this is what I'm capable of. This is what I can do. I just have to continue to do that. And so that's what kept my confidence up. And so ended up getting out of college, didn't really have much tape. And so I still wanted to play. Obviously, the NFL wasn't going to be an option at the time because I didn't have enough film out of college. And so I started looking at other leagues like arena football
Mhm.
overseas. And so I got in touch. I
When
had
you look at
somebody.
overseas, what is there? I mean,
uh,
obviously Canada, right? The CFL.
Yes. Yeah, the CFL, you have Europe, which would used to be the old ELF. It's the EFA now. You have Mexico, which is LFA. You have
Right.
CBFA down in Brazil. The NFL goes to Brazil now for games too, because football's
Yes.
just starting to grow more down there. You have just a few other leagues, but it's very few and far in between. Like you got to find opportunities when you can get. So I had asked somebody to help me out with an agent, and so they kind of directed me in a direction, and so ended up kind of getting connected with this person, and I was like, hey, I don't have much game film at college. I was like, I run 4.40. These are my weight room measurements. This is my time. And he was like, let me get back to you. And I was like, okay, that means no, right? It's like, no, you're not going to help me get signed.
Yes.
And so he got back with me. He was like, I can help you out. He was like, you're probably gonna have to play arena or overseas. It might not be pretty. You're not gonna be making crazy money like the NFL, but it's your chance to play professionally. And he was like, get back to me within the next few days. Let me know if that's something you want to do. If not, I understand. But he was like, that's really your only option because the
Mhm.
NFL is not going to entertain you until you get more of a
Actual
resume for
film.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, how much do I love football? Like I said, I've been around the game since I was 4 or 5. Like I really love
Yeah.
it. First coach was an NFL player. He always taught me, the love of the game comes before the money. The love of the game comes before notoriety and all this other stuff. And I had a true passion for the game and want to be great. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to be getting paid crazy money, but this is what I want to do. So
Yeah.
texted him back. I was like, hey, yeah, this is something I want to chase. He was like, all right, cool. I can get you in an arena team. So first contract he got me was with the Harrisburg Stampede in the AIF. Got in there with them. And then he got me a bigger contract after that with the NAL, the National Arena League, with the Oklahoma Flying Aces. And then last year I was with Manaus Football Americano in Brazil, in Manaus, Brazil. And
How was
so
that?
got to
How was that
uh,
experience playing Brazil?
it's different, right? It's
I'm sure it
different
is.
food. The language barrier was crazy because there was Spanish on my play card, but my head coach, he spoke English, so he would call out the play in Spanish, and then
Was it
if I
Spanish or Portuguese?
Portuguese. I'm
Hey,
sorry,
oh, okay,
Portuguese.
just making
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Portuguese. He he would call it out. He would call it out in Portuguese. So he would say, amarelo, or whatever color,
yeah,
right? And so if I needed help, he would say, okay. He would call it out in English. And we had Coach Sergio. He was a coach that could say it in English if I needed it. So that flip was really weird because we had Colombians who spoke Spanish, and
yeah.
they had got imported in too, and some of them could speak Portuguese too, but it was like we had three languages going on at one time. So it was a little nuts,
Yeah, I
little
would
nuts.
probably think it's a little easier to find out what it means from if you have a Spanish speaking background to Portuguese versus like
That's a little easier.
American
Yeah.
English to Portuguese. Could probably be
Yes.
a little. I mean, it's kind of important that you understand the playbook of the plays are being called, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, the craziest thing was with Portuguese. I always say Portuguese is more like broken Spanish in my opinion.
Yeah.
Everything sounds a little faster. Like they don't say buenos dias, it's like bom dia, but they say it so fast like bom dia. It's like it's just a
Hmm.
more broken, faster Spanish. So it's way harder it was way harder for me to pick up on, but I did learn some things I was able to pick up on. I did learn some of the colors like azul, and just some of the things. And some of those colors are the same in Spanish. Some of them are a little bit different, but it worked. We made it. We
It
we
worked.
made it.
Yeah.
We made it work. We made it
Yeah.
work.
So okay, so that was last year, and
Yep.
now what's on the docket now? I know you do some training as well, but you're still an
Yep. I'm
active
doing.
player, right?
Yep. I'm still active free agent. I was
Yeah.
with Eau Claire Axemen in the TAO, which is another arena league here in the United States. We parted ways because I missed half a training camp for my wedding. I wasn't gonna miss that because I love my wife, and we had
Yeah.
already planned. We had already planned getting married way before I got signed,
Yeah.
and so coaches were like, "Hey, you weren't here for half a camp. We're just gonna cut you." So that happened. That ended up happening. I got cut probably a month and a half ago. So free agent. I've been talking with the Saints about getting a private workout. I've talked with Denver, the Colts
How's
as
that work?
well.
Is that your agent? Do you have an agent that you work through, or
That my agent helps me, but I've been going with the Saints since I live in New Orleans now. I went
yeah?
down there and talked to them in person.
So you
And
just
so
drive down there, you knock on the door, and say, "Hey guys,
I already had no. Well, yeah, you can do that, but I already had one of their guys' numbers, John Sandusky, and so I
yeah,
kind of went down there with a plan in mind to talk to him. He's an area scout. He told me that I need to talk to one of their higher up guys, and
mhm.
so I will be having more convos with them as time goes on. But trying to get in training camp, trying to push that door and see if I can make that happen. But we'll see. It's football is tough. It's one of those things where it's team has to have a need, and
Yeah.
then on top of that, you have to fit height, weight, and then on top of that, you have to be a guy that they feel they can invest in. And every scout has a different prototype of what they like. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully I can get in training camp and see what things happen. But we'll see how it goes.
So from a receiver position breakdown, like, IQ, what do you think what do they look for the most in terms of like you're preparing them, scouting you? Is it the route running? Is it the, separation technique? Is it film study? Is it, defensive reads? What do you think they're looking for the most?
Honestly, I think at the NFL level, they're looking for high IQ guys, but there are a lot of guys that aren't high IQ. I hate to say that, and just being very blunt.
Sure.
So I think they look
Personally,
for
they're
guys.
they're idiots in all type of industries. That's
Yeah,
not it's not
yeah,
isolated to football. So
yeah, for sure. So I think one, they look for athleticism, right? What the 40 time is, what the vertical is.
sure.
Your ability to track the football, catch the football, your catch radius. I think that's the first things they look for, and then they look for, okay, can we teach this guy, right? Does he have the ability to learn? Because he has to know some things. We have to be able to implement a playbook. But I think the first thing they look at is athleticism more than football IQ,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you hear so many stories like Chad Johnson, for instance, like,
Yeah.
Carson Palmer used to say he used to just come to the huddle and ask what route he was running. Like, he didn't memorize the playbook. So it's like, that's a
Oh, is
guy
that
that,
real? Is that a true story? I
yeah,
mean, I know,
yeah.
follow both of them,
I
but
mean, we all know Aaron Hernandez, right? Aaron Hernandez, Wes Welker has a cool story, well, not cool story, but funny story about him, that he threatened Wes Welker to kill Wes Welker if he didn't help him learn the playbook. So that's two stories where you got guys that are not knowing the playbook, might not have high football IQs to be able to retain
but
information,
athletic ability, huh?
but they had crazy athletic ability. Exactly. Exactly. So I think that's the main thing. And then I think your ability to retain information, are you a person that can lead, right? Leadership is another thing, because I think the NFL is an alpha game. They want guys that are alphas that can drag people along, Michael Jordan type of guys
Yeah.
that, when guys like Tom Brady, when you need somebody to step up and take control of the team, like, they can do that. So it's some leadership qualities.
But again, that's not just during actual like games. That's during practice as well,
Practice,
right?
that's every day. That's
And
every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And they watch that, I would imagine,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, that's why, if you the combine process is so in depth. That's why, like I told you, at TCU we had NFL
yeah.
scouts at practice. They take practice just as serious as games, because if your practice habits are poor, then eventually your game habits are going to be poor, right?
Yeah.
If you're a lazy practice player, if you show up late to practice. So they evaluate all of that. They're looking, are you a leader at practice? Are you a leader in the weight room?
Mhm.
Not just games. But yeah, throughout my college career, I've seen NFL scouts at practice all the time, all the
Mhm.
time. So they take every bit of the game seriously, from practice, weightlifting, athleticism, your coachability, your IQ, all of it. But I do think they make exceptions for guys depending on how athletic you are. They would definitely make exceptions.
And again, now you said you're doing training as well, right? You train
Yes.
individual players, right?
Yes.
What level? You said high school?
High school and college, I've had some college guys too.
Okay. And is that all on the receivers or cornerbacks as
No,
well,
I'm
or other
I'm I'm
positions?
kind of I'm kind of expanding. I'm doing DBs. I'm doing receivers. I stay away from quarterbacks because that's really, really, really like high technical stuff. I don't want to throw. I don't want to mess up somebody's
Yeah.
throwing motion when I didn't play quarterback myself. So I'll let actual quarterbacks teach quarterbacks. But yeah, DBs, receiver, running back. I played some running back too. I coach those guys, and
How similar is that? I'm just imagining in terms of like, some of these guys sometimes forget your plays, maybe on a jet sweep and all that stuff. You have a receiver coming in that basically acts as a running back.
yeah.
How different is it in terms of like, run after the catch or get the handoff? In terms of, I understand the body types of these players are different, but how different is it from getting the ball in your hand as a handoff versus catching the ball and then running with it?
It's a lot. It's night and day. I think when you're running the football, you have more time to react to
Also, I mean,
guys.
you have assigned blocking. Obviously, it's a designed run
Correct.
flow, right?
Correct. So you almost have built-in protection to the play, and then you have time to react to the built-in protection. Whereas when you're a receiver, I mean, I call that freelance work. Like you're on your own.
Well, especially you come over the slot. You come over the middle. So
Yeah.
for you, again, not to interrupt you, but you come down with that high ball, like you're immediately thinking, what is your thought process? Because there's going to be some defenders that try
You
to knock your head
you
off, right?
down I always look at down and distance. If it's like, let's say we got 3rd and 10, it's 3rd and long, the defense is going to be playing coverage. So they're only going to rush 3 or 4 guys. That means they're dropping 7 to 8 guys.
Yeah.
So that means when you run over the middle of that field, it's going to be at least 4 or 5 guys that see it and can trigger on it quick. So based off down and distance and coverage what the pursuit is going to be like from guys around you. If you have, let's say it's 2nd and 2 and you're throwing the football, play action, right? Let's say they blitz 5 or 6 guys. Now it's only 5 to 6 guys back in coverage. Now you may have 2 or 3 guys that see you when the ball is thrown to you. Now you only got 2 or 3 guys that's triggering down on the pass. So it's based off down and distance. It's based off what coverage you're getting. If you're getting man, I'm very comfortable in man because I know the guy that's in front of me. That's the guy that I have to beat. If I beat him, then I know I'm running free. So it just depends on what defensive look you're getting. If you're getting defenses that like to disguise stuff, like I hate defenses that disguise stuff, especially if you get, I don't know, you get a 2 high shell that rotates down late and turns into 1 high, and then it becomes some type of weird, sky coverage or cloud coverage, and now it's a weird look on the back end. Now it's like, okay, now I got to see exactly where guys are. I can't just be running blindly through here. And then that's when you really gotta think a little bit. But yeah, it's a lot to it. I always tell guys, people think playing receiver is easy, but it's really not. I always say, the easiest position on the field is running back. If you really want to just be an athlete and go play ball, because you don't really have to read nothing. You're just reading the hole, you're pressing it. Somebody caves down on the hole, you bounce it. If somebody splashes out and overruns it, then you cut it up inside. Like it's easy. The only part about running back that's really hard, in my opinion, is when you have to help out in pass protection, and so you do have to identify blitz pickup.
Yeah.
You do have to help the offensive line out a little bit, and help the quarterback out. But that's easy. If you got a decent football IQ, you can pick up on that too. So
Okay.
but
That makes
receiver
sense.
it's a lot harder than what people think it is.
I don't know, they thought it was easy.
Yeah.
So
Some people do. They're like, oh, all you got to do is run and catch football. Like that's easy. You're already athletic.
yeah. Again, some of those cornerbacks and safeties are not too bad either from an athleticism.
Yeah, they're very smart. They know how to disguise things, and then their reaction time is real quick. So
Now, again, your training, et cetera, is obviously more on the physical side of things, but I'm on the business side of things. From a wealth perspective, working with athletes, et cetera. What are some of the pitfalls that you see? Maybe some of the discussions you're having with young high school, especially with NIL these days, right? High school as well as college athletes, from a business perspective, in terms of what agent to choose, what sponsorship to take, not to take. What do you see during your career would happen with some of your colleagues maybe, or yourself, as well as what do you see with the newer folks that you're training?
Honestly, you see a lot of entitlement. A lot of guys feel like just because money's being thrown out to athletes now that they deserve money.
Yeah.
And they deserve the same amount of money as maybe a transfer portal kid. Let's say a transfer portal kid gets 100,000. Like a high school kid thinks, "Oh, I deserve 100,000," but you don't understand that kid's value is going to be different from you because he's already played college football. He already
Yes.
has a year of experience more than you have. So they're going to invest more money into him. So I think teaching young athletes to not be entitled, to not feel like they're owed money just because they're a talented athlete, I think that's the biggest hurdle to overcome. I think money management is another one. There are no investing and saving skills with high
So
school kids. Like
budgeting it as well as put money aside as well.
no, yeah, they don't have it at all. They don't care about it, because they're emotionally
Yeah.
not mature enough to understand, okay, you got taxes and I might need to put stuff away for retirement, and they're not thinking about that whatsoever.
I think you're bringing up a great point, by the way, just to hone in on that in terms of like the tax aspect of things. People forget that entirely. We had somebody on the podcast that, exclusively works with athletes and basically tax preparation from a high school, even like college level, right? And the first thing they get, if you're getting 100,000, you're not really getting 100,000.
No.
In the moment,
No.
you might get that. That's right. But the federal and most state governments are going to come calling.
They're going to get their money, yeah.
Yes, that's not something. So if you're buying that high-end car, just again from a budgeting perspective, I think it's just important from a support system that again that's being discussed, and you have a good support system around you.
Correct.
So.
Correct. And that's the thing too. It's when you get this money, this NIL money, it's taxes are not taken out.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's one lump sum payment. So these guys, you can't just go spend all that up and then expect, oh, I don't have to pay it back. No, the government's gonna want their share of it too. Once tax season hits. So just lack of understanding of taxes, lack of understanding about retirement, lack of understanding about investment when you talk about high yield savings
Yeah.
accounts,
Yeah.
how that can be an investment tool for you to make your money work for you. Just I don't know. It's just poor financial literacy
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways for a lot of guys.
Yeah, no, we
Um,
talked about it. I think yes, you're bringing up a good point, and then just from a butchering perspective, and I think what most people have to understand, and obviously we know this, right? And again, I think your story kind of resonates with that. Highly talented, and you don't get the opportunities, right? So that might mean from in today's day and age, from a high school perspective, from a college perspective, you might get some NIL money. You might not necessarily get the level of opportunity to present yourself. What I'm getting
correct,
at, you're not going to be the 1% of the 1% that makes it to the pros per se,
correct,
but
correct.
you can actually save some money in the meantime. And that could help you in terms of, again, you might get in broadcasting, you might be involved in another business.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
money being spent or not spent, so to speak, put aside, in a smart way, might help you kickstart another career that you could combine with your athletic, background. So
Correct, and they don't, and kids don't understand. You can use that money as an investment to
yes,
start your career
yeah,
while you're in college. So when you get out of college, you already have a business that's 4 to 5 years in. So you don't have to market and promote it like that. You don't have to jumpstart it off the ground. It's already in the works. So just like you said, kids, athletes not having that foresight, right? Not
right,
not knowing what they need to be looking out for ahead of time to set themselves up because like you said, a lot of guys, they might not get opportunities to play. They might not get opportunities to, get to
yeah,
arena or overseas or CFL or EFA in or LFA in Mexico or ELF in Europe. They might not have those opportunities because at the end of the day, I always tell people getting signed to teams is all based off of luck. It comes down to who likes you, who thinks you're a player that they can work with. You see guys that, are tall that get opportunities. You see guys that are short get opportunities. It's a sliding scale of who gets
yeah.
chances, and you don't know if you're going to get chances or not. And so I always tell people like that stuff is just a flippable coin. So you're better off, like you said, having money invested and starting your side business as you're in college, so it becomes the
Yeah.
main business.
Yeah,
Because at the end
I
of the
just
day, it is.
again, I don't notice this again. Working with retired athletes as well as like young athletes, right?
Yes.
Excuse me. The fact of the matter is, you might never make it to the pro, right? For
Yep.
you and I,
Yep.
or no, more for me, you're still working as a pro, but for me, like I can do what I do for the next 20, 30 years.
Yes.
For an
Yes.
athlete, the timeline is so compressed, right? So if you
That's
know
it.
that already, and all of a sudden you get some extra, funds, why not put them aside? Just
Without
see
having to
what
pay bills
happens,
too.
right, and make it work for
Yeah.
you. But yeah, yeah. As we coming to an end here, a little bit on the less serious topic. A couple of questions for you, just in general, that I'm curious about being a receiver. Meaning what best receiver of all time? Who you feel like who would that be? I know you said Steve Smith is your guy, but in
Yeah,
general,
Steve Smith is my guy, but he's not the best of all time. He did have some up and down years with Jimmy Clausen and some poor quarterback play. I think this I tell people this all the time from a pure athleticism standpoint, I think you have to say Randy Moss. You're not going to see guys that are running 4.2, 4.3 range at 6'4".
that's a good point. I was gonna say Calvin Johnson, yeah, but
Yeah,
yes,
Calvin Johnson too, but I think from an athletic standpoint, just body wise, it's got to be Randy Moss. If you want to go from a production standpoint, catches, yards,
well, yeah,
all of that, you got to go Jerry Rice.
sure.
If you want to go from an explosive factor, meaning like a wild factor, I think you got to go with Antonio Brown. So those are my three. Yeah, I always say he's the wild factor guy because I've seen him, his body control. He's one of a kind. I think if he didn't mentally just jump ship.
Kind of lose it, yeah. But no, I actually think when Gruden was still the head coach for the Raiders, I think the first time he saw him in practice, he was like, "This guy's off the charts." Like,
Yes,
yeah,
he's unreal. He's
yeah,
unreal. His body control and his ability to track deep balls and just he doesn't need much separation to make a catch. That's what makes him great. Like a lot of guys, like that's what I'm working on with myself. Like a lot of times I need a lot of separation to make a
yeah,
catch. but he's able to make contested catches. It could be a yard of space, and he's still making the catch
Because of
whether
his
you grab him or
control
not.
and being able to, locate the ball, huh? Okay.
Correct. And he's not a big guy too. He's only 5'10". So, it's just one of those things where from a wow factor, he's the best receiver from a wow factor. Athletic standpoint, it's Randy, and then from a production standpoint, it's Jerry Rice. So I always tell people I got 3 answers from that for that question.
Who do you think is the hardest DB to face, in your opinion?
Right now,
Yeah, right
or
now
all
as well
time,
as, how far back do we want to go?
I think, man, I think all time you have to go.
Dion?
Aeneas Williams was really good. I think Dion's a guy that everybody says, but I think it's a toss up between him, Aeneas Williams, and Darrell Revis. Like
Oh,
Darrell
yeah, you're
Revis is
not convinced me. I'm a Jets fan, so yes, I would
yeah.
go Darrell Reeves.
Darrell Revis, I have a love-hate relationship with him because he wasn't a turnover king like Dion was, but he was just so consistent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people put so much emphasis on interceptions,
Yes.
but they don't understand how hard it is to play DB. So consistently getting pass breakups, consistently making the
Yeah.
quarterback throw off target, that's just as good as a pick.
Yeah, I forgot
So
what year it was. I thought it was 09 or 2010, where I think
yes,
he held receivers like, I
it
think
was 2010, I think.
yeah, as 2010. Like, again, Megatron, you're talking Randy Moss. I think the
Chad
highest it
Johnson.
was like 35 yards or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
But
Ridiculous. So it's I would say either him. I like Aeneas Williams too. Aeneas
yeah,
Williams is a Hall of Famer. He's old school. I've watched some old film on him. He was legitimate too. But yeah, I would say either I would side probably Dion or Darrell Revis. I think
yeah.
one of those.
Well, I think some of the special teams stuff that Deion Sanders did in addition to it also kind of like,
Puts him up there.
yeah. I mean, I'll pick from a pure cornerback perspective. Again, it's always, again, hindsight, it was better, right?
Yeah.
They're both very good. So what's your favorite route to run?
I like post corner. It's a long developing route. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of time. You have to have a lot of speed to run it because the quarterback does not have that much time to wait. But I think if you run it, especially against like a man free look, and you can get that middle high safety to kind of cheat to the
Yep.
post, and then you can break it late to the corner, and then if you can get the DB the corner to trail you, who's ever covering your man, if you can get him behind you and you can kind of suck both of them to the middle of the field, that's a money play, especially when you talk about 35 yards and into the end zone.
Yes.
That is a money play.
But I mean,
So
a quarterback throws that on anticipation that you're going to be there,
yes,
right? I mean, the way
yes,
when he releases that ball, you're nowhere near there yet.
no,
So,
but that's the beauty of it too, because
yes.
you don't give the safety or the trailing DB any time to recover, so that it should be automatic touchdown, especially if you get a receiver that's got some speed and can get out of that break with some speed. It's good stuff.
Two more. So if you think about what is it more important, speed or route running from a receiver perspective?
Route running.
So even if you're not as fast, even obviously you're a fast guy, but exact route running, it just helps in terms of like,
speed is very overrated. I always tell people because if you look at it, Wes Welker ran 4.46, Jerry Rice ran 4.7, Jarvis Landry ran 4.7. It's so many slow receivers that have been to Pro Bowls, that are Hall of Famers, that have revolutionized the game just because they're so precise with their cuts and their change of direction, and it's so good. And then you look at guys that have tremendous speed like John Ross. John Ross didn't have half of the career that Wes Welker or Jerry Rice did, but he was 100 times faster than those guys. But he was also injury prone, and his change of direction wasn't as well as those guys, in my opinion. So I always say route running is way more important than speed, but this is one of those things where we have to go. It goes back to the scout or the coach that you're talking to.
Yes. Some might just be in love with speed. The other one's like, oh, if you can run the route tree, then that's what I want. So
correct. Everybody's perspective on football is a little different. That's why it's so hard. Like earlier when you talked about, getting signed and talking to NFL teams, like what do they look for? It's so hard because everybody's looking for a little bit of something different. Nobody evaluates the exact same.
Yep.
And that's the hard part of the business.
Yeah. Last question for you now. Best hands in football.
Jerry Rice. I think you have to say Jerry Rice.
What about
because
today's day and age, like the guys that are out there now?
I still think Odell. I think
you love the one-handed catches, don't you?
That's a popular guy to talk about. But Odell, his catch rate is for him to only be 5'11" and
Yeah.
him to be able to just get balls that are way outside of his frame. I mean, he still wows me. It's everybody talks about that catch against the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, not against the Giants, against the Cowboys,
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football. You know, that's a good catch. But I mean, he's made some that I think are just as good. Or if not better than those, and so he's consistently doing that. It's not just a one-time thing, you know.
Yeah. No, that guy's
So
outstanding.
yeah,
I mean, he's back with the Giants now, huh?
he is back with the Giants. I don't think he's that same guy.
Well, age is not necessarily something
No,
that helps.
no, it's not. He showed flashes of that a little bit in Baltimore, but he's not really that same guy. But he's still, in my opinion, current players that are still playing. He's got to be the guy with the best hand.
He might help Jackson Dart a little bit in terms of from a presence
Yeah.
perspective.
Oh, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And
so.
I think that with a decent defense is what
Yep.
will get them back on track. I think if they can really revitalize that defense and really make it legitimate, and then you talk about neighbors with Odell, and they can find a way to get a running game going. You got something working there. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
their problem has always been the last few years. It's always been coaching. They haven't seemed to find a guy
That can really make a difference, right? I mean,
that
I
makes a
know players
massive
don't want to
difference.
talk about that, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you can have some knuckleheads in there, I'm sure. So,
Yeah,
especially again, not willing to adjust and stuff. So,
correct. I always say every coach knows X's and O's, but every coach doesn't know adjustments. Right?
yeah,
It's like chess. Like, you always have to have a counter move for what somebody's going to do. It's one thing knowing chess and understanding the rules of chess, but understanding having counter moves. If you do this, I'm gonna do this. If you do that, I'm gonna do that. That's thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. Every coach can't process
situationally
information like that.
speaking, right? Understanding
Correct.
game flow, as things are
Correct.
going on, right? So,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
good.
Correct. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I told you earlier at the beginning. I think Gary Patterson is the best guy that I've been around that can think 2 or 3 steps ahead.
That's
I think
awesome.
it's very few guys that are like that. The Nick Sabans of the world, the Bill Belichick's, Gary Patterson, Mike Tomlin, guys like that. Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
They're generational thinkers. So
Bill Parcells. Now you're going way back.
way back, I listen when I tell you I've been watching football since I was
Yeah,
4 or 5. I'm
you're
serious.
right. I mean it.
Yes, I mean it.
Yeah.
All the old school stuff. Like, people always say, "Oh, you can't talk about old school guys if you haven't watched them." I've watched them. Like, I go back.
I watched
Especially with you.
Parcells, late
Huh?
'90s Jets
Late
coach.
90s.
Jets
Yeah,
coach.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
good for
So
him.
I go back and watch those old games, whatever games are available to watch. I go back and watch.
Awesome.
Most definitely.
That's good. Michael, this has been great. I certainly appreciate your time. Continued success. Be that with your own career as well as coaching going forward. I
Yes,
think
yes, sir.
those young people are blessed to work with you. So no, I
Same to
appreciate
you.
that, man.
Same to you. Same to you.
All right, thank you.